Welcome to Keep Heading East. I'm Murray from the YSE Cookery School. If you're joining us again, then welcome back. And if you're joining this series for the first time, you've joined us back in the west on the shores of the British Isles, the 30th stop on our whistle-stop tour of global feasting. You can check out the main introduction to this series by clicking the on-screen link in the cards, or follow the link in the description below to our free PDF cookbook with all the dishes that we'll be cooking in this series, or if you prefer a printed version, then there's one available as well. The British Isles are an archipelago in the North Atlantic, off the northwestern coast of continental Europe, consisting of the islands of Great Britain, Ireland, Isle of Man, the Hebrides, and 6,000 smaller islands. They include two sovereign states, the Republic of Ireland and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Now, having visited Ireland in our last episode, I'm going to just look at British food on the whole in this episode. Now, British cuisine nowadays has to be one of the most diverse and influenced cuisines on the planet. In my opinion, traditional British food is simple food that, due to the climate and the location, is needed to be warming, uplifting and fairly self-sustaining. Now, while some traditional British dishes are found right the way across the UK, many historic dishes and cooking styles are proudly tied to a region, reflecting the reliance on the climate and locally grown and sourced food. In the north, Scotland's natural access to fish, for example, seafood, game, and ideal conditions for growing vegetables, fruit and oats have really been the driver behind traditional Scottish cooking. Scottish food's traditionally been quite simplistic, with minimal use of rare and expensive spices found abroad. The Scots are internationally renowned for the quality of their beef, salmon, game, and it goes without saying whiskey, which I imagine is probably quite essential for navigating a long, cold, dark winter in the Highlands. Likewise, the Welsh are well known for the quality of their lamb, especially the lamb from the salt marshes. And mussels. Mussels are quite a common thing to come out of Wales as well. Also, random ingredients like samphire. Some of the more common English dishes include the origin in the name, like a Cornish pasty or Lancashire hot pot or Yorkshire pudding, etc. Now, the upshot of all this rain in England is that they have incredibly rich pastures. Okay, so that leads to really incredibly good dairy products with a great high fat content like their cream and their cheese. The French are well known for their cheese, but cheese from an English artisanal producer is second to none. Likewise, the cream, standard English double cream, comes in at an average of about 48% fat content, which means it whips up in seconds and it's really, really tasty. When I'm back in the UK, it's one of those things that I really look forward to. I literally eat it by the bowlful. With most European creams, the highest you can usually find is about 35%, making it lighter and less stable and harder to whip up unless you increase the fat content by adding something like Italian mascarpone. Food rationing after the World Wars had a huge impact on the availability of food and food products into the UK, but since then the world's become a much more global marketplace and travel has become much easier. Now, around the turn of the millennium, immigration into the UK from the British colonies and the European Union, and along with Britain's tolerance and openness to other cultures that it had previously conquered, led to a mass expansion of food imports and availability of ingredients, even out of season. It really became quite immense. And there isn't really many other places in the world that you can purchase such a wide range of ingredients from a visit to just one or two shops. In my opinion, it's that openness that allowed British cuisine to really thrive and advance so much at a much faster rate than other national cuisines during this period. Along with access to such high quality local meat and fish and produce, means you're highly likely to have dishes from foreign cultures in the UK that actually taste better than they would have if you'd eaten them in the native country. Imagine a Moroccan lamb dish served in a London restaurant, made by a Moroccan chef with Moroccan spices, but Welsh lamb instead of the kind of malnourished lamb that he might have used back at home. And there's plenty of examples like this. Good food's become quite trendy in the UK. Farm shops are a great place to get hold of high quality products from the smaller producer that have travelled a little less distance. However, as the pace of life in the UK continues to get faster and faster, farm shops struggle to compete against the bigger supermarket chains. As the demand and the entitlement for convenience and having everything in one shop, as cheap as it can be, the small guy often loses out. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. On one hand, chefs and home cooks alike have got access to a large range of ingredients, more so than anywhere else in the world, alongside high quality online media content and recipe content, and a competitive food industry that leaves the consumer really spoiled for choice. You can have classic British, Indian, Thai, American, African, Pacific Rim, Middle Eastern or European food on a different night of the week without much hassle, whether you actually choose to cook it yourself or eat out in a restaurant. It's all on your doorstep. But on the other hand, for those that work in the food and beverage industry, it's a constant battle to survive the competition and charge enough just to make a living. Now, cooking has traditionally been a skill that's been passed down from mothers and grandmothers all over the world. And somewhere in the later part of the 20th century, UK life became so busy and competitive that both parents started to head out to work, and ready meals and convenience food kind of replaced home cooking. By 2005, when I was teaching cooking at the YSE Cookery School in Somerset, it was really glaringly obvious that learning to feed oneself was a fundamental skill that had skipped a generation. Back then there was only a handful of cookery schools, but since then the interest in learning to cook has been reignited, and there's now hundreds of cookery schools across the UK. Day courses to holiday style courses to specialised courses. Most celebrity chefs have a cookery school of some description, and there's formal schools for training chefs like the Cordon Bleu, Leith's School of Cookery, and City and Guilds accredited college courses as well. However, not all schools are created equal, and if you are considering attending a cookery course, I think it's really important to consider what you want to get out and do some research. Ask questions like, how much actual cooking is there per person? Often there can be quite a bit of communal cooking or kind of long-winded demonstrations that eat into the time. And if you're looking for something informal, then these courses are quite good fun. They're quite social and good fun. Are you looking to boost your cookery skills in certain areas like butchery or fish cookery or baking? Or are you interested in becoming an all-rounder and cooking for an income? In which case you need a course that offers some form of real life situation built in, like the shopping and the time pressures and the organisation, and a decent amount of actual cooking practice. This is part of the reason why in 2020 we moved our own cookery school online, so we could bring our students up to a level where they can confidently place themselves into either private cooking style roles or slot into a restaurant kitchen with a good foundation of knowledge, so they can really fit in and keep up from the start. And in my obviously biased opinion, it's had a great impact on our students. So although online cookery courses might miss some of the social aspects of a live cookery course, it's worth keeping in mind that if you're serious about learning to cook and hold your own in a professional kitchen, then it might be a good way to go. If you're interested in taking a look at some of the dishes from our online course, then I'll leave a link in the end cards to one of our photo galleries. Or if you'd like to learn a bit more about our approach to teaching people to cook, then you can download our guide to learning to cook from the description below. Now, along with cookery schools, there's a load of great online resources for all types of global food on British websites, such as BBC Good Food or Great British Chefs. There's also countless food programs from a whole host of celebrity chefs that are available to watch free to boost your cookery journey, and the quality of British food media is probably some of the best in the world. And my advice is to take your influences from the chefs that have mastered their craft before they master the art of making themselves into a celebrity chef. Okay, so if you're looking for a recipe online, take the time, compare a few and look for similarities in the methods, because for every great recipe you'll probably come across 4 or 5 that are cop-outs. This week's recipe entry into the Keep Heading East cookbook is for the iconic British fish and chips. Our recipe uses a beer batter, and for the chips it's important to get hold of some starchy potatoes like King Edward's, Maris Piper, Romano, Desiree or Russets. Okay, something for the weekend. So that's it for this stop on our Keep Heading East tour of global cuisine. I hope you've enjoyed it. Links are on screen now for the videos I mentioned earlier if you'd like to see a little more from the region. And remember, for our subscribers, there's a fantastic cookbook to accompany this series. So if you haven't already, hit subscribe and grab yourself a free PDF copy of our cookbook, or if you prefer a hard copy, the links are there as well. Thanks for watching. See you soon.